welcome to another episode of the Single Girl's Guide to Life. I'm Chantel Dyson, your host for this podcast, and I'm also the founder of the Single Girls Club by Chantel the Coach. And this is a space for single women to learn how to enjoy being single, to move on from heartbreak, and only if they want to, and when they feel ready to, is starting to get back and ready to dating again. But it's not our primary function. The Single Girls Club is there for women to meet one another so that they can have the friendships that provide them with the intimate relationship and the partnership and the sharing of their life that you feel like you can only get from a romantic relationship, when in actual fact, if you can build up that really true network of support and have those best friends around you, you won't necessarily feel like you need a relationship anymore. We don't want to be in a place of feeling like we need a relationship. We need connection to any other people to survive, but not like we need to be in a relationship just to be happy. And that is what we continue to work on through all the workshops, all the getaways, all of the events that are taking place towards the end of this year and that are getting ready for 2023. This is the place to be. But we have a particularly testing time coming up, which it's already begun because Halloween is over and we are dealing with Christmas. We are dealing with the run-up of Christmas and then into New Year. And I tried to help solve the problem with New Year's Eve and for having the getaway, which we've got a couple of spots left from. If you want to join us in Brighton for a weekend spent with other single girls, we've got pizza and movie nights. We're doing a workshop then as well. And it's just that experience of knowing you've got something that isn't sitting at home with your family or sitting in on your own on New Year's Eve, then that could be an option for you. So I'll pop the details in the podcast description so that you can look that up if you want to do something a little bit fantastical. It's Alice in Wonderland themed. It's a gorgeous venue that we're in. And I've been planning this for months and I cannot wait for you to find out more and to get involved. But as I say, Christmas is a long slog and it's hard and it feels like it's in your face. Winter Wonderland's just opened and there's nothing worse than the idea of thinking, I don't have someone that I would just naturally go to that to. However, I'm pretty tempted to go on my own. I've looked at booking it. There are some really great off-peak slots that I can make the most of. And I want to go just to prove the point that you can have fun at Winter Wonderland, even on your own. But sometimes Christmas is that reminder. It feels difficult. It's that horrible reminder that we are still on our own. Now, that's just one element of what's really difficult. The reminder that we're still single. Then comes the judgment part, because we're starting to spend time with family members who are interested in our lives but maybe aren't the most tactful. We have some of these really awkward conversations around staying single, dating, and people seem to feel like they have some sort of right to know what we're doing with our dating lives and maybe to imply judgment on us because of the things that are said to us. And that can be one of the most hurtful things. Now, I can't cover all of that in one podcast episode. I have about 25 to 30 minutes to make this reasonable for about a car journey. So I also have an extended version of this sorted out. We've got a Single on Christmas workshop coming up on the 13th of December that you can get involved with. Listen to this podcast episode, see how you get on with it. But if you want to take it that step further, if you want a bit more guidance, and if you want to take part in the 12 days of being single at Christmas event as well, because you'll get that as a bonus, then you can head to the description and sign up to that, whether that's now or at the end, so that you can take this further and you can be guided by me through Christmas to make sure that you're ready and prepared to get through it and that you've got things that will keep you occupied and growing throughout the time. So let's come to the practicalities of Christmas. Christmas can be really difficult because if families come together and you're single, the other parts of the family and the other members are bringing their partners along. They're bringing the people that they spend their days with. And, you have that extended family that you might not see that regularly, but suddenly Cousin Tim is bringing Jill along as his girlfriend who you'd never met before. And all those extended family members are developing their relationships. There's new partnerships. There's maybe even new children around. And if you've been through a breakup recently and this is your first Christmas where you're single, this can be particularly testing because where you may have had an experience with someone that you thought was going to lead to that and that they used to come to these events with, you're now going through the experience of doing Christmas without them again, which can be particularly testing, but it's added to and it's doubled over when you see other partnerships progressing. Now, it's important to realize that that's just a case of comparing. If we start to compare our lives to others all the time, we would constantly feel stuck because there is always someone in a better position than you. We often use this idea that there's always someone worse off and I should be grateful. That comes up quite a lot. But there's generally always going to be someone that's in an inverted commas better position than you. They've got something that you want. They've got something that you would like to have that you don't have, or you feel behind because all of your friends are at a particular point and now you're not. And it's this idea of comparison that we really need to be aware of. If you are really close to a breakup, it's probably not going to be the time to do that. You have got to just experience the difficulty that Christmas is and allow yourself to cry and allow yourself to be upset and to not be too hard on yourself for finding it difficult. It's the same as if someone has lost a family member and they've passed away and they're dealing with the first Christmas without them. It is the same thing. It triggers the same feeling in us. It is a loss. So you're entitled to feel that. But for those that have been single for a bit longer and are just longing for that person to come in, it's this idea of remembering all the value that you have and that you hold in being single. Because you are a complete person as you are. You don't need somebody else to make you feel better. That doesn't mean you don't want somebody else to grow with and to do that with. But this world is for you to live in and to experience. And we can't determine if someone that is suitable for us is going to cross our path for us to then engage with. It's something that is beyond our control and that we can't make happen unless we really compromise. And I have a big issue with compromising too far on what you really want. I think sometimes we focus on the wrong things for thinking, I want that in a man, I want this person to be like that. I focus more on what I want the relationship dynamic to be like and what I want their character to be like, as opposed to what they look like per se, or what activities they do or don't do that don't relate to me. But it's not something we can just make happen unless we're prepared to make some level of almost sacrifice. And all relationships involve that. But right now, being single and not having that doesn't mean that your life can't be fulfilled and it can't be wonderful. What would you want to be doing that you can't do whilst you're in a relationship is something to think about. So, for example, if it is activities like Winter Wonderland, then challenge that idea. Challenge that and go and do it. What did I just say? I'm going to try, I'm going to give it a shot, I'm going to try and go to Winter Wonderland if I can find it in my schedule to go along on my own, to try it out, see what it is. Can I still have fun? I do lots of things on my own and I encourage you all to do that. It's what I've encouraged for the last year and a half on this podcast. It's what I've encouraged and will continue to encourage. Even if and when you get into a relationship, I want you to go out there and do things on your own. I would advise probably not going at the busiest times because it's just stressful anyway, and not having someone to moan to about that is a problem. Alternatively, pitch it to your friends. Reach out to them and say, hey, look, I really want to do this. And explain to them that it's because you're finding Christmas difficult, you want to make it fun. Give them a reason to help you out. These are your friends. If they're your true friends, they'll understand. Now, they might not have the schedule. That doesn't mean they don't love you as your friend. They might not have the time or space. Christmas is a demanding time. It's one of the other really challenging parts of Christmas is that where couples, your friends are couples, and they come together to spend Christmas together. For example, my family is split. My mum and dad are separated. So I already have two families that I need to cater to. And when my stepdad was involved as well, we had three families at times to cater to. Though sometimes my mum could do that separately with my stepdad, but sometimes that impacted on us, depending on the way that all the different sort of calendars synchronized. Now, if I was dating someone or with someone that then had also separated parents, you're then dealing with four parents just from the couple being together. And that doesn't include any step parents' needs as well. So if your friends are in scenarios, whether they have step parent situations or not, it's just one of those times when there's so many family features that are doubled up because of multiple families being involved that unfortunately during that particularly 10-day period between the 24th of December through to the 3rd of January, the friendship train can feel a bit diminished. It can feel like it's not as important. And right in that moment, at the time of what's being celebrated, it isn't. But that doesn't mean that you can't have conversations with people to try and get some time in, even if it meant spending time with that person's family. So I have been to one of my friends' family parties for their birthday. I have met many of the members of the family when I've been helping to decorate. I've been helping with the family. So unless it was this really, really strict event, I have a feeling that I could ask if I really wanted to, if there was something that was going on that I could be involved with, that they would invite me. And I think this sort of happened with a New Year's Eve where I didn't quite have something planned, and they were like, you could have come with us, you should have said something. People aren't going to naturally think of you. It's a really hard truth for us as singles that people aren't thinking of us. And that might be the bit that you're like, I just want people to think of me. Ultimately, we have to make people think of us. And that's not done in a horrible way. It's just, could I do something with you for New Year's Eve? My New Year's Eve last year was so last minute. We had met up, my old drama group of girls had met up because it's about the only time that we can get time together. And in that conversation, there was a mention of what one of them was doing for New Year's Eve. And they then, at that moment in time, invited us round. I was there because I didn't have any other plans otherwise. I hadn't bothered to make any. I was putting myself in a bit of a... I tell a lie. I had made plans. I was going to Scotland and doing the... Is it called Hogmanay? Sorry to anyone that I've butchered that word for. That's terrible. Oh, God. But that's what I had planned to do. But with COVID coming back in, it was all a bit touch and go. And I'd cancelled doing all of that. And the refunds had been issued for the event. So I didn't have anything. It wasn't that I hadn't planned fully. It was that my plans had to change. So I didn't have anything per se. And that got mentioned by chance. But we have to be proactive and we have to ask people. And that is a long stint between Christmas, the New Year's Eve, and then getting back to normality. And that's why I've put together the 12 days of being single at Christmas, so that you actually have a series of activities you could do every single day. Now, they won't take the whole day each time, but they are a set of activities, and I'll create a group for it on Facebook that allows you to share what you're doing. So you're getting this sense of moving through something together, having a few little things to do during that time, even if you don't stick to every day being the right days, because some of you are going to be busy on Christmas Day and Boxing Day, but it's the bit in between that catches you out. So maybe you'll do 2 of the events on those days. Or it might be that Christmas is great, but New Year's Eve is a bit naff. There's going to be a few practical things that I think you should do at the end of the year versus just some of the solo sort of adventures that I would encourage you to do whenever, but I'm going to apply them in a Christmas context. And there's just some Christmassy activities in there as well. But it's this idea of a mixture of you keeping yourself busy and looking at this as a bit of a holiday, a little bit of a solo trip, a little bit of a time to look inward at yourself, whilst maybe trying to reach out to some people to try and spend some time together. And even if you don't necessarily just spend time with someone, maybe just having a phone call and connecting with people across Christmas. So if you can't practically be together, if some of your greatest friends have moved or have travelled back home for Christmas dinners, then actually say, could we have a call at some point? Could I catch you on the morning of the 26th, on the morning of the 27th to catch up? I find Christmas really difficult, and I'd love to be able to talk to you, find out how your Christmas has gone, and share what our Christmases have been like, because I'm going to miss you. You know, you're making that person feel like they're important in your life. If I would make time, I would find some time for someone that said to me, I really matter to them and they want to know about my time. I'm going to find that time, even if it's a quick half an hour. But that to me is one of my values. It's connection. And so it's important for me to do. As I mentioned, another part of Christmas is the judgment bit. It is how people seem to navigate their conversations with us for being single at Christmas and for how our dating lives are going. And this can be one of the most uncomfortable experiences. And I can tell you, you aren't the only one. We always think it's just us, especially if we're the only single left at the party or in the family. It can feel like people are going to be putting pressure on us to do that. And this is where you need to know what your version of your dating life is. You have to decide ahead of time, before you get to that party, what your dating situation is. If you are in a scenario where you're not over someone yet, then all you need to do is say, I'm not in a position that I'm even looking at dating. It was a long time I was with X and I just want to take some time out for me. Dating is so low on my priority list that I don't even think about it. I want to explore myself. I want to sort myself out first. I want to sort my single life out before I do anything else at all. And, you know, they're going to test that because they have a different belief system. Chances are, if they've questioned you on it, they might have a different belief system. Get yourself back out there. Once you get yourself a man, you'll be happier again. There's this idea that you aren't happy. And you probably aren't happy if you're going through a breakup, but it's not the right thing to be jumping and trying to find another person to make yourself happy. We all know that that's an absolute disaster. We're filling a void with someone really quickly, and we do get all of the really nice highs and all those hormones trickling around your body, they don't fix anything. They don't change who you are, and they certainly don't give you the right kind of relationship. And if you are one of those lucky people that then does actually find someone even as close to that kind of breakup, you're still going to have to do that inner work at some point. It comes out later. Doesn't mean the relationship has to end, but it is going to be that it needs that work. And it might be that you're helped through that by that person, or it does cause more of the same. You might repeat the same pattern again. And I don't want any of you going into a relationship again by repeating the same patterns. The whole idea of what I'm going to be doing with some of you in the new year is to work on those patterns, to identify them, to get rid of them. So we can't be going in and just jumping at the next thing to make ourselves feel better. I dated way too early from when I split from my ex. Ultimately, I learned from my mistakes as I went along. That's part of it. But in hindsight, I definitely at least have given it 6 months. Like, do not even look at anybody else, if not longer. But just that idea of needing to let yourself settle as well as the rest of your life. There's going to be other situations as well where you do say, I am dating, but I just haven't found someone yet, or I just can't seem to find the right people. It's really difficult. People really, really misunderstand dating, even the people that are in it. The people that are on dating apps don't always see the reality of dating. They expect there to be many matches. They expect there to be many people ready to commit. And the problem with that is that you're actually exposed to way more people than you were ever exposed to in dating scenarios than previously. Like, go back and think about the times when class really mattered. You were only really shown candidates that were suitable and approved by your family that you could even have as an option. And obviously it was for financial gain and things like that. But we still have this tendency towards familiarity in dating. We tend towards people that we feel a familiarity with, whether it's that they are in a similar profession or they are a professional, and therefore that gives you that understanding that they've gone through a particular path educationally and then work-wise, because of the values that holds of professionalism, for the way that you value work and things like that. It could be the way that you value family and the way that you see those things. And so people that have been raised with many children around them are potentially going to be drawn to people that also have a big family as well. There's lots of these different things where we're exposed to loads of people on dating apps, and loads of them do not suit us. Loads of them are really, really unsuitable partners. I don't know what the percentages are. I haven't ever sat to really think about it. I did some real basic maths that even I'm a bit like, it's a bit questionable, that maths I did back in one of the old episodes. It was just very basic. It was to give you like this idea around percentages being really low. And it wasn't even that mathematical and scientific and accurate. It was just very general to be like, well, half the population are male, half of them are between this age group. So even just on really basic levels of meeting gender and age criteria, it's quite low, let alone XYZ. So then when we consider that in this instance where you're thinking, I am going to want someone that's able to get a mortgage on a house. I'm going to want someone that's able to have children or wants children, all these different conditions, the chances are really, really low. And that's definitely not understood by people that aren't in the dating pool. They just think that there's these people out there that, that should be able to work with people. But we also seem to forget that ourselves a little bit. And we can be hard on ourselves that we haven't found that person yet, or one of those people yet. Yet it comes back to this idea that we can't control what does and doesn't happen with who we meet and who's suitable for us and compatible with us. So when we come to that idea of, I really would like to have a relationship right now. Even I'm fed up. I'm fed up with you asking me, because I'd really like the answer to be different when I see you at these Christmas parties. So you're being a little bit jovial and playful with it. But you know what? It's a shit show out there. It's hard work. It's not as easy as you think. And it might be a little bit of educating them on the scenario, and telling them, there are loads of people out there, but some people just don't want commitment. There are loads of people out there and they don't want kids. People are a lot more empowered not to have children now, and I know that I want them, or vice versa. There's loads of people still out there that want kids, and I know I don't. So that whittles the sort of pull down for who I can really date, if I'm being really honest with myself. Now, the problem with it is that if you have that kind of conversation, you're possibly opening up to more conversations, because if you're revealing that you don't or do want children, some people can have an opinion about that. Then you have another discussion about things. And whatever you introduce to the conversation, make sure that you are confident in continuing that line of conversation. Obviously, at any point, if they start going somewhere that you don't want to go, just say, I don't really want to have to go into the details of this right now. Obviously, if they continue to push, remove yourself from the situation. It might look abrupt, but ultimately you've told someone they haven't respected you, don't want to talk about it. Get out of there. That's holding a boundary. That's setting a boundary and holding it effectively. You're not just going to let someone keep talking at you and asking those questions. However, it can be a way of opening up about what reality is really about. And they might question it. They might come back with, but your standards are too high. And then I think it comes up in the joy of being single, the unexpected joy of being single, in fact. But it's this idea of then almost rebutting that with, well, were your standards not high when you met blah, blah? And, it's either going to be a little bit of a blow to them of like, oh, hang on, yeah, of course I did. Or they'll say, no, Jovian, and be like, have you seen him? It could go either way, but either way, it's going to possibly lighten the mood a little bit and hopefully deflect that conversation off. Standards are really important for you, and you can go into that line as well. If it's feeling like it's really testing you, you can go down the route of, I have a set of standards built in for what I want because I know what kind of relationship I'm looking for. And if that does mean that I'm going to have to wait a bit longer, it's going to be worth it. I don't want to have a mediocre, decent relationship with someone just to tick a box and do it. I know what standards I have for the person I meet. I know what kind of life I want to create. And yeah, maybe that's going to take just a little bit of time to find. So I'm focusing on enjoying my single life right now. I'm focusing on doing it my way, establishing myself, and knowing that I don't need a relationship. Although I'd love one, I know I don't need one to have a good time. And it's hard because if you're dealing with maybe slightly older people, sometimes their beliefs are very set. If you're 70 years old, you aren't interested in changing your mind too much. Some are. Everything I say doesn't apply to all. But if we look at general trends, if I'm 70, I've probably made my opinions on the world. I'm sure I'm closed off to some ideas by 70, because what's the point? There's not much longer to go. I'm not going to change my mind. And other things I'll still be open to, be like, meh, okay. But I form opinions, and I've got opinions all the time, and sometimes my opinions change. Sometimes my views and my ideas shift and develop. And at a certain point, I think sometimes I'm just fixed on, no, that's how I see it, and that's how I'm going to be treating things. And in terms of single life, I very much believe that you don't need a partnership. I think romantic partnerships are beautiful. I think they are an extremely nice experience if you can get the right kind of one to grow in, to develop in. And I know loads of you want that. But I also know that I did the work to accept that I couldn't make that happen. I tried in many other ways to fulfill that and to support that. I think there is a distinct difference between a romantic relationship and any other. But I think you can get close with really good friendships with, in my case, it's for growth. So it's personal development groups and working on that, but not doing it completely alone. I think having conversations like in the Single Girls Club online communities give me some of that. Being able to talk here gives me some of that. So it's looking at that. So kind of looked at this idea around making sure that you enjoy your Christmas as well. I said this in last year's episode. So I did a very similar episode to this last year. Hopefully I've said some different things. I did try and check. But I think one thing that remains true is that this is your Christmas too. You are entitled to enjoy Christmas your way. And so in my version last year, my plan was to spend New Year's Eve in Edinburgh. And so many people were like, oh, why are you going away? And it was for 5 days or something like that, maybe longer. I was looking after a cat. But I didn't do it because of COVID. But the questions that came up were like, well, are you going to be okay on your own? Are you going to be... I was like, I'm just treating this like a solo trip. I don't know why we're all so concerned. There's an event I'm going to. It's Hogmanay. It's going to be great. For a couple of those days, we're experiencing that together. Like, what's the problem? But people obviously felt like that might be, why is she going away at New Year's Eve? Like, it's your Christmas too. It's your experience. So if you do want to go away, whether that's joining us on a getaway, doing a solo trip, then do it. Check with your family, let them know. But ultimately, it's your Christmas to enjoy. If you're going to be surrounded by lots of people, you can say no to things. Like, you don't have to go to every Christmas event. You can say that you're just going to somewhere else. Or you can say, look, it's really overwhelming for me to be around all of this, particularly this year where I've been going through a breakup. I'm going to need time back at the house on my own, or I'm going to need time in my room where I don't come down and talk to people. Whatever it is, people need to respect that you're going through a difficult time, if that's what you're experiencing, or that Christmas is just a testing time. This is one of my most challenging parts, and it's not because of relationships. It's just a time of year. Don't love it. I do rely on my friends a lot, so when they're gone, it's hard. And I don't know about you, but the weather This, where that whole like the shortest day of the year occurs, being the 21st of December, means that it's dark. I'm struggling now when it's dark at 5 o'clock. In terms of I will fall asleep because my body's so attuned to light and dark, but that makes me drowsier. Means I'm not necessarily sleeping as well as I can because my sleep's all over the place. It's all a bit of a nightmare. So I don't cope with this time particularly well in general. So I put the getaway in, yes, to help people, but also to give myself something to be able to do. 12 days of Christmas, I can't wait to get involved in the 12 days of being single at Christmas and doing some of those activities for myself. Some of me is going to be busy getting ready for the getaway, but that doesn't mean there's not like this section on the 26th, 27th, 28th, and I'll be travelling on the 29th. But part of that, I'm going to be on my own on the 29th still. I might be sorting stuff out, but I'll be on my own. I'm going to make the most of that time. And I might shift some of the activities to being just before Christmas so that I can enjoy them, share them, and do that. But this otherwise is this time for me for ending the year and reflecting on the year. I love this. I love this time of year for that. If I can really tune into the fact that this is a time for me, then I start to not worry about what's going on elsewhere, and I just treat it as this time for spending time with myself, looking at the year and getting ready for the new year coming in. 2023 is going to be another year for celebrating my life, whatever that looks like, whatever's to come. I quit my job this time last year, and this year has been a complete roller coaster in great ways. It actually hasn't even been that bad at all. Like this, for the roller coasters I've had for the previous years, like this one has been fairly steady. I mean, there was a pretty big dip after leaving the job in the January February time. That was pretty tragic. But isn't that funny though, that my instinct was to say that it was a steady journey because I'd half forgotten how bad it was. It's this idea that over time we do forget things. Over time we realise things were bad, but we're not feeling that anymore. I know that happened. I'm very consciously aware that happened, and I found it really difficult not having a job and that. I had a purpose because I had the stuff to do for this, but it wasn't fulfilling me quite enough. But I got through it. Things changed. My life wasn't always like that. The worst thing about everything is that you think something won't change, and it will feel like that this Christmas, especially if it's your first being single. It will feel like, will Christmas feel like this forever? And it won't, because next Christmas will feel easier because you've done it once before and you'll have developed and moved on so much in that year. And then a couple of years down the line, maybe there will be a Christmas where you aren't doing it with your family. You're doing it with your friends instead because you've questioned needing to do that. And you've started to get involved with your friends' families more where they're having children, but you're not in a position to right now. You're going, oh, can I come and spend Christmas Day with you guys? I'll cook, I'll do this for you. I can help with the kids. I can keep them entertained while short. Whatever. Be helpful. And then maybe later down the line, even so, there is a version where you are waking up with somebody next to you because you are back in a relationship. Life changes so much and we can feel like situations are going to last forever. I can't guarantee that you won't be single forever, but I can guarantee that you can do some stuff about that so that you don't have to experience Christmas in the same way absolutely every year, looking the same, feeling the way that you do. Chances are you will be able to meet someone in your path that you get to spend at least one Christmas with at some point. And if not, you could still go about making sure that you enjoy the Christmas period, making it a little bit about you, knowing how to build confidence in managing those difficult conversations that come up around the Christmas time, and making sure that you take the time for you and try and enjoy it as much as you can. As I said, there is a workshop to really delve into this, to help you work through some of the stories that you're telling yourself about Christmas, to help you really push past what's really causing you the problems, and to just feel a little bit more excited and empowered about spending Christmas as a single on your own. That workshop is taking place on the 13th of December. And when you take part in that, you'll instantly get access to the 12 days of being single at Christmas event that we're running throughout the Christmas period to help you get through. And you don't have to do it on your own. You don't have to do these things on your own entirely. I can't be with you in person. Maybe for next year, I'll create this in-person event that we all get to be together and do the workshop together. Maybe even a follow-up event for doing one of the activities together. Who knows? My mind comes up with ideas all the time. But for now, it's an online workshop followed by the 12 days of being single at Christmas event. And I am so excited for it. I can't wait to share that with you, for you to be involved and for you to have a Christmas that's a bit different to what you might normally have, because you've got these ideas, this support network, and you've got me there coaching you along to get through. I hope to see plenty of you at the single Christmas event. Let me know what you thought of that episode. If you've got any questions, give me a DM on Instagram. But until next time, everybody, keep celebrating single life together.